All right, let's do it live. Merely Bo, the great Z. I got to tell you, I like this. This is nice. This is a nice black top for you. Looks
Thank
good
you.
on you. You look good. Hey, it's game week. Jacksonville, week 1. Let's go. On to the Jaguars.
That'd be week 2.
No, give me.
That'd be week 2.
No. This is preseason play. You didn't
It
know
was
that?
not. No,
Are you sure?
Yeah, and I was well aware.
Are you
that
sure?
It was not.
I thought that this was the last week of preseason play.
You were incorrect.
Can we act like that?
No, it was also not the last week of preseason play for the Bengals or the Ravens.
Come on.
It's great.
Come on.
It's great. No, yes, look.
How do you want to do it? What do you want to do here? This is wildly disappointing. It reminds me of 19. You and I
said that on the
discussed
broadcast
this.
session.
Did you
It was a debacle, is what it was.
Yeah.
It was
unmitigated.
It was you were beaten soundly in all 3 phases of this football game. Offensively, it was unfortunately it was dreadful. And we'll get into I've watched all 22 of all 3 phases. I watched the offense about twice through, including some of the TV copy because I was curious to hear what Brady said, and I thought he's going to be good.
He's fine.
He's going to be good.
People on social just want to hate things.
Of course.
He sucks. He's fine. He was fine. I watched the whole game. He was fine. Look, like you forgot he was up there, which I think that's probably the idea.
That's the idea.
You got to remember they didn't hire him to reinvent how to broadcast football. They hired him to be the face of Fox
and to
get the association with him. That's what they hired him for. So
and his insights.
He'll do that in spades.
Yes, he will be quite good. So you can kind of steer me. I've got thoughts on everything. I've taken copious notes on everything. This was, a game in which the Cleveland Browns had 1 first down in the first half. I don't think that Deshaun Watson was good enough. I think that he would be the first to admit that. I think it is also fallacy to say that he is the sole reason our offense was bad. Our offensive line had a horrific game. Probably the worst game by a Browns offensive line I've seen in my time here.
Okay, one thing that there's a lot of ways to go here, but one of the things
you asked me whatever you guide.
Let's go here. I'll try and keep it between the navigational beacons.
Please.
All right. Is it possible that, and we'll get to Deshaun and we'll get to the procedural stuff and all of it, but is it possible that we, not necessarily you and I, but as an organization, as in everything, did we undersell the loss of Bill Callahan?
I will need a bigger sample size, but I don't think we did undersell it. I think we
talked about it a lot.
It was the most significant position coach loss that was possible in the entirety of the National Football League. So I don't know that we could have. I don't think we undersold it.
No, we did.
I don't think we undersold
I guess we did say that. So fair. We did. It looked like a new regime up front. We were there is. And we'll get to Deshaun. I know that's what everybody wants to talk about. I get it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it all.
But in
if
terms
you want to
of,
start here,
let's start in the trenches because the one thing that we have been since Kevin has been here and since AB has been here is we have primarily been the better team on both lines of scrimmage for most of the games we play. We're usually the better offensive line and we're usually the better defensive line when we play games. Now we have other things that sometimes we aren't as good, and that's why we haven't won a Super Bowl and why we haven't gotten an AFC Championship game. But usually up front offensively, we're pretty damn good, and we were not good yesterday.
No, we allowed the most pressures in the league. We allowed the most quarterback hits in the league. We allowed 17 quarterback hits in this game. Folks, the NFL average was 4.7 hits per game around the league. I did every single game, went through it. In fact, the only game where if you added up the quarterback hits on both teams that approached us was Detroit and the Rams.
Yeah.
That game went to overtime, and Matt Stafford was playing without not 1, not 2, but 4 by the end of the game, I guess, of his offensive linemen.
4 offensive linemen.
And he
out.
was still hit 2/3 as often as Deshaun Watson. And now certainly some of these hits are on the quarterback for how long he held the ball. There were plenty of times where he was hit the second he threw it. There was one play where he threw the ball really as soon as he caught it in shotgun, and he was being hit. He got out of multiple sacks. You heard Micah Parsons say, that he has a lot of respect for Deshaun Watson because he thought he had him for 3 sacks. He only ended up getting 1. They hit him a bunch of times. So our pass blocking efficiency was not good. If you go across the line, Obviously, James Hudson struggled. I'm just going to give you kind of the Pro Football Focus. Like, these are their facts of the matter.
Yep.
On our offensive line, in terms of pass blocking in this game, you had Wyatt Teller gave up 1 pressure. He was the best. DeJuan Jones gave up, according to them, not a single pressure and was our highest graded pass blocker by a pretty wide margin.
Not bad for a guy who was prognosticated not to start this year.
James Hudson gave up 6. Ethan Posick gave up 6. Joel Bitonio gave up 5. And in true pass sets, Joel Bitonio, who is a stalwart, and he is as good as it gets. It was just one of his probably worst outings out there, including on the play to Amari Cooper, which you guys saw. That was Jordan Phillips just went right around him and absolutely speared Deshaun, who hung in the pocket, and threw a catchable ball. It should have been a touchdown. There were a lot of issues with the receivers as well. He had a rough game, and they were working on a lot of, twists and stunts. And then it got to the point where they were just bull rushing our offensive line and driving the front back. So if we snapped the ball, they were pushing our line back 5 to 7 yards. And it happened over a dozen times in this game where there was nowhere for Deshaun to step up. Now, did Deshaun leave clean pockets? Yes, he did. Did Deshaun miss some throws and some reads? Yes, he most certainly did. Was he under more duress than any quarterback in the National Football League? Yes, also, that is also true. This team, and I'll go back to the joint practices because I said it in Minnesota after those joint practices with Minnesota. Remember, we were getting, it was sack, 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 sack. And I said at the time, it's not just James Hudson. That is a fun thing to point to.
Yeah.
But it was not just James Hudson. The interior 3, which have been so good for the Cleveland Browns, and I still believe will be, just got off to a slow start. People say, oh, well, we didn't play starts. Posick and Teller played in 2 of the preseason games. No Joel Bitonio. That's correct. You did not see him. Hudson played in the preseason games. Obviously, DeJuan played in the preseason games as well. And shout out to DeJuan for his shoulder has been bothering him, and it got hurt in this game, came back in. But, Wyatt played well, and DeJuan played well. 2/5 of your offensive line in terms of pass blocking. The rest, not great. And it's something, if you can't have the integrity of the pocket, people always say, oh, you got to step up in the pocket, step up. If there's nowhere to step up, it's very difficult, and you've got to go to the outsides, and then you're putting yourself in disadvantageous situations.
All right, next thing.
By the way, I'm not even done on the O-line.
Okay, go ahead.
From a run-blocking standpoint, we were not great either. The Browns in this game ran for 93 yards, and that includes Deshaun Watson. Let's take Deshaun Watson out of it. Okay? The Browns basically were running the majority of their yards after contact. You were taking contact too far down in the backfield. Jerome Ford was getting 1.5 yards down the field, not even, before he took contact. That's not good enough. Also, where was Deontay Foreman?
Well, we only ran it 14 times with our backs.
That's right.
In the game. So you were behind the sticks as an offense.
So there's another whole other problem.
The entire games, literally behind the sticks, and then also trailing, and so you felt like you had to throw out of it. So, and I don't have the stats, perhaps you do. I would imagine the majority of those runs were in the second half when the game was long decided.
First half summary.
I don't have the stats.
Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong had 5 carries in the first half.
Okay, so I believe I had that then. 9 in the second half between the 2 of them.
And a lot of them on the last drive.
A lot of them on the last drive. So, we didn't attempt to run it, which dovetails back into your conversation about the offensive line. It's pretty easy to be very good and come after somebody relentlessly if there is nothing to fear on the ground and there's nothing to fear over the top.
Yeah.
You can just pin your ears back and go like crazy, and that's what they were doing. It all marries, guys. All of this marries.
Oh, and the pre-snap penalties, 11 penalties, putting us, as you talked about, behind the sticks. Here's another stat from week 1 for you. The league average to be in 3rd and long was 21.9% of a team's third downs. So that's 3rd down and 7 or more. The Browns were at 46.2% of their third downs were 3rd and 7 or more. You cannot play football that way. They were 1 for 12 on those 3rd down conversions. They put themselves behind the sticks. They were awful on first down. We had to be the worst first down team in the NFL yesterday.
Yeah.
Our runs, which most of our runs were first down runs, did nothing. We had, unfortunately, as I said, there were so many things that went on in this game, all of which were bad, right? You talk about your quarterback did not have his best day. We were credited with 4 drops in this game by Pro Football Focus. We can't drop football. And of the drops, 1, 2, 3 were 2 were first downs. One was a 36-yard touchdown, and the other one led directly to an interception, which, by the way, I'm done with the stick concept where the guy on the outside runs the hitch, because it's the reason I say that is when you have 3 to the left.
You're talking about the one that was a little bit high and outside off of Elijah's hands.
Through both of his hands.
Here, and it went through, and then it's
very similar
off,
to Harrison Bryant in Pittsburgh. And the reason I say that is because when you have the outside guy run the hitch, the inside guy either runs a slot fade or he runs a post. In this case, he ran a post. But earlier in the game, they did the same thing, and he runs slot fade. The guy in the hitch, that means that his corner is just sitting there. So when the ball comes through his hands, they just get to pick it off.
Easily. Yeah, it's much fair catch it. Yeah.
So, and if you're running a little out, that defender's there to make the tackle anyway.
Yeah.
So at least give some space there. It was, and I know that is a very popular concept in the National Football League, and I understand why you run it. You're trying to hold that corner down and then hit that hole shot, depending on if the safety's single high or if they're in cover 2 or cover 4. I totally understand that from a football standpoint. It just has been unfortunate the way that has played out for us. But so many little things. We did not do a good job throwing the football. And, Deshaun, I thought, in this game struggled with his accuracy at times. Now, some of the ones that are going back and, they're saying, the one he threw to Amari in the end zone, he threw it out of the end zone. He was not open. Now, you want to give him a chance to make a play. Same with the Jerry Jeudy one. He was not open either.
Threw it out of bounds, yeah.
He just threw it out of bounds. Give him a chance to make a play sometimes, or at least get a flag. A number of things can happen. Those balls have to be certainly inside the numbers or on the field, and they were not. This was, folks, it was bad on every level. Deshaun Watson, 0 for 4 on passes of more than 20 yards in the air. He was 3 of 8 on passes of 10 yards in the air. So that puts us at 3 of 12, 25% completions on passes of 10 yards in the air or more. That's not good. Now, if you say, is there even a remotely of a silver lining in this one? Not really. I mean, we completed 64% when not under pressure, 33% under pressure.
You want to know how there could have been a silver lining? The silver lining could have been we scored to make it 27-10, and then we got the ball back.
Made it 27-17, right? Felt like you had a chance.
So you had a chance to – I mean, they were playing so soft on that first drive out of half. I mean, they were just letting
on the third down. It was
they just easy
giving out,
and they just giving it to you. It's fine. But when it's 27-10 and you get the ball back after a stop, the defense is fired up. They're bouncing around. 2 stops back to back on Dallas's offense. All right, we made some adjustments. Let's go. And then you don't go get a drive. You needed that drive then, because then even in a loss, you could say, okay, there's something to build on. The Watson thing is, look, I mean, we've talked about this all off season, and there's a bunch of different factors that led into how this is a meltdown in really every facet. But this whole season. This is franchise quarterback tough talk. The whole season's about 4.
Of course.
If you have a franchise quarterback and you need one in the AFC, if you have one, then the pressure comes with that, and everything's been done here to get the best out of him, both offensively, skill, all of it. And so we have got to find a way to play better offensively with Deshaun Watson, and he's got to find a way to find that. There wasn't much to hang your hat on in this one. There really isn't.
No. And again, these are not my grades. And I think I've been very clear that there were throws that were missed from an accuracy standpoint. There were reads that were missed from the pocket. There were clean pockets that were left early. So Deshaun did not have his best game. The line had one of its worst games. I thought our receivers, in terms of balls they normally catch, didn't have one of their best games either. And so it all adds up to a completely, wholly ineffective offensive performance, especially when you add in pre-snap penalties that turned you into 1st and 15s constantly. I mean, we were in 3rd and 10 like every single time, and the stats back that up. These are Pro Football Focus's grades. These are not my grades. They had Deshaun as, in terms of a passing grade, they had him as the number 16 quarterback in the league, tied with Lamar Jackson, right around Dak Prescott and Josh Allen. Overall, he was 18th quarterback in the league, right around Herbert, Prescott, Gardner Minshew, Joe Burrow. That's their grading system.
The game's over at half, and so it's.
But he didn't even stat pad.
No, I know, but like that one drive where you have success, I mean, they're basically saying take everything underneath. Go ahead, take all the outs you want. Like I watched Stafford last night.
Sure, I thought Stafford played.
He was amazing. I don't understand how they could have him graded negatively. Like the rest of those, I didn't watch.
His
Herbert.
interceptions were bad.
I watched Lamar.
His interception was bad.
He had the one interception in the end zone that was a bad pick.
Yeah.
But good Lord, I mean, he was outlandish in the second half of that game.
He was trying
to bring them back. Yeah, he really was. So yeah,
I'd say take her. I was not saying. I'm just saying take her with a grain of salt. Where I think that the perception right now is, if you were to listen to the temperature of this city, is that nobody in the world has ever played quarterback worse than Deshaun Watson played, and that's not true.
No.
It needs to be better. It was not an acceptable performance from this offense.
Yeah.
The defense had its moments, but it's hard to really evaluate because I felt like Dallas stopped playing offense in the second half.
I think when you are in the position our defense was, I thought that the first two drives, was it the first two? Do you have a stat book?
They went.
Was it the first two
3
drives?
and out, and then we got the punt return, and that led to the field goal to open the game, and then they.
Oh,
went,
there it is. Siciliano had it over there.
Yeah,
he stole my stat book.
And then they scored, and went 7-3.
Yeah,
I'm looking for the possession chart. And then it was 3 and out, 3 and out.
Okay, so I feel good about what I'm about to say because this is how it feels. I mean, rewatch it.
Well, here we go. 3 and out.
Yeah.
6 plays, 70 yards in the touchdown with a blown coverage on third down. It led to the easy touchdown to Brandon Cooks. They tried to check the coverages, and not everybody got the check, and it led to a vacated zone and an easy touchdown. Then 8:31 forced a punt after we had backed them all the way up. They got some room. Then a 3 and out. Then they went 11 plays, 74 yards, and a touchdown again. And then they had a couple field goals. And then we know the punt return touchdown. Then it was 27-3 before you blinked with 13 to go in the third quarter.
I thought McCarthy did a great job, especially in the first quarter, scheming CeeDee Lamb the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They found ways to get him the ball.
Talk defense.
You and I talked about that a lot in the lead up to it. Like, he was their only weapon. They ran him on jets. We
need to figure out how to stop jet sweeps, by the way. This is 2 years now.
Yeah. But I thought they did a masterful job of keeping him. But I thought the defense was put in such an advantageous position over and over again. So I mean, you're back out there. We had one first down in the first half,
brother.
So you're going 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out.
We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight 3 and outs. One of which was a 2 and out because of the interception.
Okay,
by the way, on that play, they're blitzing 5 rushers for 5 blockers. And for some reason, we slid into the blitzing linebacker, and nobody blocked Micah Parsons.
11 would be one you'd want to make
sure you block, because if you're throwing that way, he's too big of a guy to throw it over. It was kind of like the Kyle Hamilton one.
Yeah.
So you've got to have him block so the ball can come out hot.
I thought the defense came. You make the special team one's a killer too,
of course.
But you come out in the second half, the defense gets 3 and outs. You're like, you got a chance. You get it to 27-10. Let's get it to 27-17. Let's see if we can turn this into a 1 or 2 score game in the fourth. And we just weren't able to. I'll hold judgment.
Dallas
on the
had 2 first downs in the second half.
Yeah, I'll hold. I thought the defense was in a lot of bad spots. They did.
They were in a lot of bad spots. They made some very nice plays.
The blown on the Thornhill one on the touchdown. That's what is that, a coverage? Is that what didn't get checked?
So I think everybody was on the same page except for one corner, and that resulted in what happened there.
Okay, all right. So those things happen.
They changed the coverage when they came out. They were showing cover 0, so I think it was the initial call. My guess was man.
Yeah,
and then they changed it, and I don't think that communication made its way.
Yeah,
to everyone, because one person was playing man and
everybody else
was not.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to go around. The good news is there was only one team in this division who won.
And they didn't even score a touchdown.
They did not score a touchdown. So Pittsburgh won. We got a lot of things to clean up, obviously. It's a
goodness.
very, very long season. Maybe the Penix drafting makes sense now.
Well, then don't give him $100 million.
I agree. Maybe they didn't know how broke. I don't know. You wouldn't know until you got him there. But
it didn't look like his foot was broken. It just looked like his brain was broken. I mean, those were some of the worst decisions ever.
It looked like his arm was wrong, too. Like, I don't know how close you watched, but like a lot of times you would see like facial exasperation when he tried to make a throw. Like he was really having to get everything under it to throw it. And I saw that. I went, oof.
I mean, I got to watch a ton of the 1 o'clock games because we kicked off at 4:25.
Which sucks. I hate 4:25, by the way.
It was not enjoyable.
No, not in any way.
By the way, it was kind of like Buffer right out of the gate. I don't know if you saw this. Was this on TV?
No, I didn't see that.
So
I knew Michael Buffer was there.
Michael Buffer was there.
Yeah.
To do Let's Get Ready to Rumble.
Sure.
And does the whole, the 1,000 in attendance, the millions watching at home. We're here at Huntington Bank Field. Let's Get Ready to Rumble.
No, that was not on television.
So that was a forebearer to me
of things to come.
Yes.
We do have an update.
It was painful. Was it when you say it was 5 seconds? It felt like 5 minutes, Gibbe. I mean, he even took the mic and said sorry.
We all looked at like the whole stadium got quiet. Like, what? Huh? Come on. I don't know what you're supposed to say.
You just freeze, right? Like he
wasn't ready to rumble, and it turns out neither were the Browns.
No. The news gets worse. Rap sheet reporting the Chief with a high ankle sprain. We'll hear from Coach on that, among other things. Andrew Siciliano coming up in about 15 minutes from now, and then 2 o'clock. The Hoff is back for the Joe Thomas Hour. Certainly not the way we wanted to start the season, but also still plenty of season left ahead of us. We'll continue to break it down. Those are your hot topics of the day, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Josh Cribbs, Kevin Mack, Joe Hayden, and more. True Fan Travel hosting premium trip packages for Browns fans in Vegas, New Orleans, Denver, D.C. Flights, hotels, tailgates, tickets, more, all taken care of. Visit truefantravel.com today and reserve your ultimate Browns travel package. Now we head to the podium presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Here's Coach Stefanski at the podium.
Injury front.
You guys are down about 6 minutes.
Has an ankle injury. Dave Njoku, ankle. Tony Fields, ankle. Mahmoud Diabate is really a hip. Those guys are all week to week. I'll have more information as we go through this week. Like we talked about yesterday, disappointed with the results yesterday. We need to be better in a bunch of different areas, and that's what today is about, looking at the tape, seeing the areas that we can be better, and there's a lot of them. So that's what we're doing. We're identifying those things. We're going to get them corrected, and then we're on to Jacksonville. But with that, I'll take any questions.
Deshaun had a tough time kind of getting into any rhythm yesterday. What would you say was the biggest reason for that?
Well, I would say just offensively, it's never a one-man show. To get in rhythm with the quarterback, you have to get in rhythm as an offense, and we didn't do that well enough, whether it was and it's multifaceted, and it includes me and it includes our coaches. So we'll be better. We'll make sure that we have an offense where we can move the ball, score some points, but definitely not a one-man show.
He did miss some throws that we normally see him complete, though, Kevin. From a coaching standpoint, what are kind of the points of emphasis coming off what you saw in film?
Yeah, there's plenty to correct, Tom, specifically to the quarterback. There's going to be games and there's going to be throws that you miss. But it's making those plays that are there when they present themselves, and then we just have to do a better job protecting him. Number one, like I mentioned to you guys last night, we can't allow our quarterback to get hit that many times.
Yeah, Kevin, in terms of David being week to week, what do you think the outlook is going to be like for you at tight end? I know you have a couple guys on the practice squad. You have to look outside, and what would it be like if you have to be without David for a little bit?
Yeah, working through all those type of things today and tomorrow, Mary Kay. But we have options and we'll work through them.
Hey, Kevin, when we talk about the protection, did Deshaun hold the ball too long on some of those plays?
When it relates to protection, and we've kind of talked about this before, and you guys know this, it takes everybody. It takes the play caller. It takes guys getting open, the protection, the quarterback. The tight ends and the running backs are involved in protection. So certainly there's times that I wish I had done a better job for that offense. I wish, obviously, you want to protect longer. You want the quarterback to get the ball out of his hands. All those things are true. We just look at it each play. What can we learn from those plays? So are there plays that Deshaun wants back? Of course. Are there plays that we need to do better for him? Absolutely.
And I know we've touched on this before, but he's gone through a lot been through a lot in the last however many years, hasn't played a ton. Where do you think his confidence level is right now? Yeah, I mean, Deshaun's played at a very, very high level. He's won at every level of football. He does not lack for confidence.
Yeah, Kevin, another Deshaun question for you. Just collectively, I know you said it's all encompassing, coaching, supporting cast, everything, but just what can be done really to help Deshaun get that internal clock and the feel, that natural feeling, the pressure that we saw him do so well dealing with in his career, and then also too, anticipating and throwing guys open and stuff like that. What just, I guess, can be done to kind of get Deshaun back to being Deshaun?
Well, I think it really goes back, Daryl, to we just have to go play our best as we can on offense, and it's everybody. It's coaching, it's players up and down the roster. We owned what happened yesterday. Obviously, we're not thrilled with those results, but we're going to learn from it, and we'll be better this week.
Hey, Kevin, the defense overall, I mean, it just seemed like the issues getting pressure on Dak. He was getting the ball out so quickly. What were they doing to kind of neutralize your guys' pass rush and especially get away from Miles's pressure in particular, it seemed like?
Yeah, Dallas, it's a good offense. They also, like everybody does when they play us, they always have a plan to get the ball out quick. And by and large, we played some really good defense in that game. I know there were a couple drives there that we want back, and we can play better. We absolutely can play better. We can take the ball away, all those type of things. But we just got to focus on doing our job and making those plays when they come our way.
Yeah, Kevin, just wondering, after watching that game and then watching the film, do you have every reason to believe that Deshaun's arm actually is okay and that he's going to be able to go out there early on this season and be effective and successful coming off of this surgery?
I do, Mary Kay. And let me say, with the results yesterday, that's on all of us. This is we did not play well enough as a team. We certainly didn't play well enough on the offensive side of the ball. We gave a punt return for a touchdown. There are things on defense I know we can do better. So I understand as the head coach and certainly as the quarterback, you get a lot of the attention, if you will. But this is the greatest team sport there is, and we're focused on getting better as a team this week.
Hey, Coach. First thing, I know we talked about Jack and Jed coming into leading up to this next week, but we know he was listed as Jack specifically was listed as questionable coming into Sunday, and he kind of talked about maybe testing things out pregame. Was he close at all to potentially playing yesterday, or was that not really something that was on your mind when you got to the stadium yesterday?
Well, no, I mean, we listed him as questionable. He's continuing to work very hard and get close. Sunday was not there yet, but he's working very hard.
Hey, Kevin, too quick. Is MJ said he had an ankle and had to leave and come back? Do you know if he's okay?
He should be okay, yes.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Coach Stefanski from the podium, presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package day for the ultimate game day. Boost your game day this season with Ballybet Sportsbook app. Place your first bet of $50 or more, and you get $150 back in bonus bets. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. Andrew Siciliano, he's seated right next to me. He will join us coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. The car, truck, or motorcycle accident caused you injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Joined now in studio by the play-by-play voice of your Cleveland Browns, Andrew Siciliano. You were on the call for some of the more thrilling games from a year ago. This wasn't that.
Last year. Yeah, the streak is over.
The streak is over. I mean, you were the good luck streak all the way. They were all thrilling. We won so many. This is a tough one, right? I mean, we had all the expectations in the world. From your vantage point, what'd you see?
First of all, good to see you guys.
You
good
too.
to be
Good
here.
to
Good
see
to be
you.
in the building here on a Monday. It was bad. Look, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like I think you lose the fans if you come here and you try to tell people, oh no, there's a lot of good. No, there wasn't. There just was not. And I think Stefanski said that an hour ago. Nope. None of it was good. Like, forget about it. But you can't forget about it. That's the thing. Like, we all say, hey, let's be positive. Just go win at Jacksonville. Yes, that obviously is the theme of the week. But you can't just pretend as if it didn't happen. It did happen, and now you got to get back and fix it, whether it's the O-line or getting Deshaun to get the ball out quicker. I think the defensive issues are far more easily fixed. How about that? Better to say.
Yes.
But you got to go do it. And like I said earlier when I was on the radio, like you go do that and you beat Jacksonville, then look, you're 1-1. You're back at home against the Giants. Maybe they wear those heinous uniforms again. Maybe
Not great. Those were not great.
Maybe you get Drew Lock. Maybe you get Daniel Jones. I don't know who you get. But you get a team back at home with your fans back in your building, with a chance to put a better product on the field to get them riled up and get that, home field advantage you had a year ago. But you got to get there.
Yes, you do. And we kind of looked at the beginning part of the schedule, and we thought 3-1 would be the appropriate record.
Which is still imminently doable.
It's in play. But now it just is your point. This game in Jacksonville takes on a whole lot more meaning than maybe it would have if you come in there 1-0.
See, you and I were talking about that getting lunch just now.
Yeah.
I would have argued that game meant more. And look, I know emotionally the big stage, Tom Brady, 4:25 Eastern time, all the hype, 8 months, right, to get ready for this game. That logically, that's the bigger game. Jacksonville's the conference.
It's an AFC game.
Jacksonville is the team that you potentially, in December, could be doing the math on a tiebreaker.
Yep.
Against. Yep. That one's bigger.
I think we can all agree, though, that it's not the result; it's the look of it.
The look is bad. Look is bad.
It's look, Dallas is good. They won the East a year ago. You and I maybe undersold their roster. I thought, what did they do this offseason?
They didn't do much.
They didn't do much, but they did get CD locked up. They got Dak locked up on game day. That 5th-round pick at corner looked damn good. That they had playing. He looked really good.
Yeah, he was there.
They loved him.
Fighting.
Man, he looked good, and they got after it. They didn't really need to run it much because they got ahead early, and Dak was really accurate in the first half. And they were kind of in cruise control from there on out. So they're a good team. This isn't like down in Cincinnati. They lost to what I think most people consider one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in football.
Yeah, they were in the conversation. And probably still are for the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Although Carolina seemingly locked that up.
Carolina.
Holy hell.
But think about it. Can we
it's the
just
look
step
of
back
it.
for a second? Yes, you're totally right. The absurdity of what we just said, like we're being sarcastic here. Carolina's they're going to get number 1. There's a lot that can happen between now and January, whatever the heck.
And listen, the fact of the matter is, and you know this, we all know this very well, the NFL is a week-to-week league. Ultimately, at some point, you stack those things up, but the reactions, because of the way that this game is set up, especially after a week 1 in the NFL, everybody thinks whatever we just saw is what it is. And then week 2, in many cases, is maybe more important and more telling because whatever you saw in week 1, you have to either adjust to it or other teams adjust to what you did well and go from there.
Wouldn't you argue week 2 is more important?
Yes, because can you – it couldn't have gone worse. So who are you? Who are the Cleveland Browns? You're going to look at this tape. You're going to look at how you got demolished by the Dallas Cowboys, and what are you going to be coming out of that?
Yeah, that's why I keep coming back to the look.
Yeah, look bad.
If you lose 38-31, but you're able to score it and you give up a special teams and you have a pick 6, okay, we can fix those things. It's the look that makes it troubling. But there was a lot of bad looks around the league. The question for this team, and I think this was the thing that was really frustrating for me, I couldn't tell, and you guys were there, I could not tell what our plan was going to be because it didn't feel like we ever got to implement it offensively.
Well, no,
it felt like we were constantly behind the sticks, both literally behind the sticks and figuratively behind the sticks, chasing Dallas. That was disappointing. I wanted to see what this offense would look like, Andrew. We never really got to look the way I think it was intended to.
No, and when we were doing factor fiction before the game, right? And what was the question, Nathan? Well, you weren't on. You were sitting right next to me, though. I think the question was, who is the most important player offensively? I'm looking at Gibby over there, other than Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, or Nick Chubb, something like that. You're nodding. And I said Jed Wills. Because A, fifth year. All right, let's go. B, are you healthy? Right? Yep. Like let's find out, can we get you out there? And the idea, by the way, that he was all of a sudden going to practice once after not practicing since mid-season.
Yeah.
And play, I thought was kind of ridiculous. Of course he wasn't going to play week one. Now, how fast he's going to get out there, I don't know. But you need the line to play well because, yes, Deshaun Watson 4 years ago was a magician who can escape, and he did a heck of a job escaping a couple of times yesterday as well.
Yeah.
But you don't need him, and he cannot be that guy for this offense to function. It's great to have that club in your bag, right? You want that club in your bag because it's going to break down sometimes, and you have the ability to get out of it. That is awesome. But for this offense to operate with rhythm and timing, you hope to keep that club in your bag as long as you can when you're playing 18. And they had to go to that club from the first hole.
It was as if it was the only club they had.
It's like all we had. Only club. We just had the rescue. We just had the rescue club. That's all we had.
One of those things like, all right, well, you'd be good at this as well as you play. But they're like, here, Z, just play 18 with your rescue club. No putter, no wedge. Best of luck. Now, you'd probably still shoot 75, but that's what we tried to do.
What's your handicap these days?
It's -10.
No, it's not. It's beautiful right now.
Oh, it's nice.
Index is a 3 right now. We're feeling pretty good about that.
Quite good.
Pretty good about that. There's a lot. The kid's like, I'm setting your handicap. I'm like, look, all scores are in there. He's like, you missed this putt on purpose. I'm like, I lipped it out. He's like, you're that good. If I was that good, I'd be shooting in the mid-60s all the time.
I'm just listening to your golf story here.
Well, so that somebody texted me yesterday and they said, how are you guys going to do this tomorrow? I said, well, we'll talk about the realities of it, then we'll quickly transition into the eternal summer of Nate and my kids.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do.
I mean,
that's the only way to do it.
Look, there's not a whole lot.
Nothing good to take from it. What are you going to take? There's nothing.
And I'm not trying to say that's the silver lining. Hey, the silver lining is you just flush it.
Yeah.
Because it's not that simple. Yeah, you got to fix it.
You have to fix it. And I think that is why, to your point, this game, in addition to the fact it's an AFC game, and you think about last year in the playoff run, beating Jacksonville at home was massive to making that happen. It is going to be a game where it says, okay, this is who we are. You are what your tape is. This is who we are in week 1. 0-1, we got beaten down. Who are we going to be? How are we going to respond to that? Because you have to be resilient. And I wonder, on some level, intellectually, it would make no sense to me that this team, because it is so talented, thought they could just go out and win after what happened in Houston in the playoffs last year. Intellectually, I can't get there, but at times it maybe felt yesterday like we thought we were just going to go roll out there and roll, and we did not.
I don't know that anyone – it's a fair question. And if the answer is you just thought you were going to roll over the Dallas Cowboys on national TV, obviously, then
silly.
It's silly. I also want people to realize as well, because I've gotten a lot of this on text and wherever – well, geez, if only like Jack Conklin had been able to go. This was not a Jack Conklin would have saved the day game. This was not what that was in any way, shape, or form. So one guy coming back from an injury isn't going to fix things in Jacksonville. The other thing, too, is you're going to lose guys to injuries. I mean, David Njoku, sure, right now, doesn't seem, I know Kevin says week to week, didn't say day to day. Right.
No.
I said week to week.
Week to week.
Yeah.
So,
and the reports are obviously high.
Exactly.
Here's the thing that a lot of people in the league do, and when you're certainly embedded with a team like I am, and you are now with us, and you are with the Rams as well, is that you kind of assume everything that was good from the season before is going to stay good.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that you had a deficiency that you went out and addressed in some shape or fashion is going to then improve.
It's a great point.
And that is not the case. And I think going into this game, we would have all intellectually said, no, we don't have a left tackle. James Hudson's probably going to get beat some, and he did. But that we felt so good about left guard, center, right guard, right tackle that we still had what we thought was 4/5 of an excellent offensive line. And that didn't play itself out yesterday. And hopefully that's just a 1 week aberration. But that's one of the things where everything good stays good, but sometimes it doesn't. People age, people get injuries, all of those things. Now, I'll be paying a very close attention to that going forward, but that's kind of one of the fallacies of NFL fandom is that everything that was good will never decrease and never deteriorates, and everything that was bad will get fixed. And clearly, there's a lot of bad here and a lot of good that was bad.
You mentioned the Rams, and you mentioned how things go sideways sometimes week one. So they, real quick, went into last night's game without right tackle, injured, left tackle, suspended, then lost 2 more O-linemen during the game.
Oh, yeah.
So the Browns' O-line issues are not even close to the worst O-line issues in the league right now. I mean, the Rams are trying to figure out how to field an O-line for week 2. Like, do we have humans here who can do this?
Right. Yeah, and they were a stop in the fourth quarter in the red zone from winning in Detroit.
And that's what stands out, right?
They lost Nakua, too.
And they lost Puka early.
Early they lost him, and you find a way.
And
Tyler Johnson steps up. A little catch and run. That was a beautiful play.
And Tyler Johnson, if you look at that toe tap with Cooper on the sideline, which is fantastic.
It's unreal.
Tyler Johnson in on that on max protect, chipping with the right tackle.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there's so many things that are tough, but we did not get a second half of football that was played with any sort of like NFL integrity because it was over at half.
Right.
So it was if you would have gotten one drive, Andrew, I said this to Z, you got the drive to make it 27-10, and then you get a 3 and out.
That's where you had.
Now let's go make a drive.
Right.
Now you get a fourth quarter.
And I was waiting for that to happen. The punt return really was what killed you.
Of course.
100%. But even the touchdown drive, which, hey, you got the big Njoku play, you got the explosive there, then you lose him. You had 2 airmailed balls through the back of the end zone.
Not a good ball to Judy, actually.
But a good ball to Judy, right. And so there's good and there's bad. And, hey, you overcame the bad, you got the good, and you got to the end zone. Look, that's going to happen. You're going to have good and bad on every drive.
Yep.
You know, few of these are going into a museum, right? You had good and bad, but the bad clearly outweighed the good.
Yeah, and as I said, it is one game. You are one game behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. You are tied with the Ravens. You are tied with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, that's how we came out of the air. That was my thought here. Look, the Steelers at that point, they'd already won, but the Bengals lost. The Ravens lost, and the Steelers may or may not have a quarterback. I mean, Justin Fields did the job yesterday, but who's going to play next week?
Score a touchdown.
They just went.
Exactly.
Just said, let's go. Why?
Boswell, by the way, should be the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week.
He might be Offensive Player of the Week in the AFC, quite honestly.
Yeah, they don't have a punter as well because they just lost their punter for the year.
Yeah.
No, there were. This was definitely. We went into this season. This was the strongest division in football. Wildly disappointing. I mean, Baltimore played really well on the road.
But you can see their issues.
You can, but you can also see their
How
dangers.
Good, of course.
And they know exactly who they are. So, yes they have injuries, but they know exactly who they are. Pittsburgh, they basically relied on the wild incompetence of Atlanta. Atlanta could not do anything.
Sure.
And the Bengals were bad. They were bad. Burrow did not throw the ball down the field at all. Nothing. And they got stuff behind the scenes, too. Chase saying on Friday that they promised him they'd have a deal done before the season started. Then T. Higgins shows up on the injury report Friday after being good all week. Not great.
And then you add illness to the injury report on Chase not questioning. I mean, we all get sick. That's fine. Not questioning that, but that was a late ad as well, to your point. So there's all that. But think about the overreaction. You guys just said, the Ravens lost, but like the nitpicking of the fact, they lost, but look, we're looking at them and we could tell they're not going to be right this year. It's one game.
Totally.
On the road against the Super Bowl champion, your nemesis. You had 8 months to prepare for that. They went out and they got Derrick Henry. By the way, if you thought Derrick Henry was going to get 30 carries in September in any game, forget about it. The job of that Ravens staff this year is keeping Derrick Henry healthy for January, right? So then you could bowl people over with that guy. They're not going to give him 30 carries in September. But again, the nitpicking after they played reasonably well.
They played reasonably well for sure.
Like I said, they know who they are.
Yes,
I think they know who they are.
And Lamar is very, very dangerous, and they need to keep Lamar healthy.
Yeah,
clearly. But their O-line has plenty of problems too.
Yeah, one of the big things I noticed throughout the league, and obviously we had 11 penalties. Dallas had 11.
There's too many flags.
The referees they think they're the stars of Week 1. I mean, Andrew, it was a flagapalooza starting Thursday all the way through.
Yeah.
And you always see, I talked to Clete Blakeman before the game for a little bit. You always see the week one points of emphasis, and Kevin said that on Friday. Like, we reminded the guys after watching Thursday night, after watching all those flags in Kansas City, how to get lined up and this and that. Look, if it's a point of emphasis, they mean it. That was his phrasing, I think, right?
Yeah.
When the league tells you that this is a point of emphasis, they mean it, right? They're going to do something about it. But Clete said before the game, like, we're not going to overthrow those flags. Like, it can't. Not every game, the message I got, can be like that Kansas City game with not lining up right. We can't throw that every play, but that doesn't mean you can't throw 22 flags combined.
By the way, Clete Blakeman, sharp-dressed man. Got to give him that.
Yeah,
very impressive fit he had on.
He had some like really snazzy sunglasses on, like
glasses,
like kind of the
coat.
Blue frame.
Yeah, it was very.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was impressed.
I
actually
was
talked
impressed,
a while about his sunglasses. Like I was impressed. I don't know that I could pull off the blue frames.
Yeah. Well, he also has a nice dome.
They look good on him.
Yeah, they did. It's
Yeah, there's a little too inside football here, but yeah, they look good on him.
I don't know if we'll have a chance to talk to you before the game Sunday in Jacksonville.
You got my number, whatever you want.
When you get down there and you're calling the game, what do you want to see early to lead you to believe that what happened Sunday is at least somewhat fixed?
A couple of things. Number one, establish the run. Number two,
control the line of scrimmage.
Control the line of scrimmage. Absolutely. And then if you do that, then when you set up for those chunk plays, right, when you set up for the play action or whatever it is you want to set up to try to stretch the field, he has the time, or the defense is enough on its heels or playing the run that he has time to find those guys downfield. You don't get in rhythm if there's no time to be in rhythm. Mm-hmm. And again, that sounds like I'm blaming the line. I'm not. Like
a lot of
there's blame in every room.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
there is enough to go around. I'm not saying anything, and I guarantee you, no one is saying anything that they don't already know.
Good seeing you, buddy. Especially
Likewise.
in person. Usually just at the Combine. This
I know. The Combine, it's like the annual, the Combine's one giant convention of red meat and late nights.
It's red meat,
a lot of cocktails,
and whiskey.
Meat in the boys. Yeah. A lot of meat in the boys.
I mean, have you ever gone to Indianapolis without red meat and brown liquor?
No. That's how it goes.
That's right.
Takes years off my life.
Every week.
What awful jobs.
Once a week.
One of the
year.
nights after a hazy night, Andrew had introduced me to some of his friends, and we're on the sideline, and he and myself and Jason, right?
Oh, the Cowboys. Yeah, yesterday. Yeah.
Of the Cowboys, we both kind of looked at each other like,
Hey,
I know you.
There might have been that. There
might have been a night at Prime down in India. Yeah, I know you. And they were like, yeah, that's what it was.
You can't beat horsing around with the boys in India.
You can't beat it.
Howard Hanna, official real estate provider of your Cleveland Browns. Our exclusive buyer agent is there to help you navigate the field, save time and money, and score that winning touchdown. A new home, win big with the leader in real estate. Visit howardhanna.com/GoBrowns today. The Joe Thomas half hour. Guten Tag. He's back from Zid.
He's back, baby.
What a real treat.
Oh, is he back?
He's back, baby. He's coming up next.
Back
Listen
on
to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey, it's your Uncle Bo here for my friends at the James B. Beam Company. Booker No's vision for Knob Creek was the embodiment of full-flavored American whiskey through age, proof, and flavor to create a product that sets the standard. And that's what they've done with Knob Creek, created a champion those who stay true to their craft, know what they like, and don't feel pressure to confirm. In fact, this fall, don't forget to take advantage of the Knob Creek Steak Rebate. Here's what you do. You buy Knob Creek and a steak. You upload a picture of the receipts to knobcreeksteakrebate.com, and they're going to send you $20 right to your Venmo account. You must be 21 to participate. You see the full terms at knobcreeksteakrebate.com. Knob Creek, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 50% alcohol by volume, 2024 James B. Beam Distilling Company, Claremont, Kentucky. Knob Creek, drink what tastes right. About to commence the very first Joe Thomas half hour. We're efforting the Hoff. He's stateside. He's stateside. He's not in Germany anymore, although we did a couple of Germany calls. But he's back stateside and took this one in. And the Big B's text thread was flowing yesterday as well, so we had that going, which was nice. It's good to have the Hoff back, and we're working on getting him there. This is going to be – I can't wait to talk to Joe about this because, of course, where does his eyes go when he's watching a game? Up front. So he's going to give you a feel for what happened or did not happen up front yesterday in the loss to Dallas as we continue to work on Joe there.
Yeah, and again, if you're just joining us now, we kind of went through it pretty thoroughly in hour number one. Not good. And we're going to learn a lot about this team and what they're made of this week because you have got to accept what you saw yesterday, come back from that, and make major changes in terms of your performance, your preparation, your dedication, your execution, your mentals. We had too many pre-snap penalties. That comes down to, unfortunately, in many cases, those are mental errors. This is a very, very big game in terms of telling the Cleveland Browns who they are. And another thing is, everybody is so down on Deshaun Watson. That guy took an absolute beating yesterday. And so I think his toughness, which he proved, I thought, in the second half, forget the 14 for 14, but just what he did given what we knew after that game, proved how tough he was. He had done it before at various times in his career, proved how tough he was. Yesterday, he was a warrior. He got hit more than any quarterback in the league, and I'm talking he got crushed a bunch of times. How many times, Gibbe, we're like, after every play, we're like, Watson got smoked again.
Yeah.
And he got up and he stayed in that game. And so he certainly has earned a lot of, not that he needed to earn respect in the locker room, he's got that. What he needs to do is play now at a high level, and this offense needs to play at a high level, and that will ease a lot of things. But he did show that he is a very, very tough customer.
I don't know that we've, in terms of, I cannot recall, and since I've been here in 18, the closest I can think of this in terms of just coming out so flat. 19 was obviously at the opener against Tennessee.
This felt a lot like
but
19.
This felt a lot like it. Hold on just a second.
Yeah.
Let me give you some halftime stats because this is what I mean by you did not get to play a relevant second half of football. You're 0 for 6 on third downs in the first half. You had 1 first down at the half. You had 7 penalties for 39 yards. They were critical penalties.
In the first half, and you had how many yards of offense? How many yards offense?
Total offense? 54?
Yeah, and then you went back 14 offense? On the next drive.
Yeah, I mean, it was in
the third quarter.
No, it was bad across the board. All right, the Hoff. We are told that we have the Hoff. Guten Tag, Hoff.
Guten Tag. Hello, my gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Listen to you, buddy. Hoff, stateside, baby. You're back.
What's up? Oh, back to the land of milk and honey, and it feels so good.
It's quite a departure from the boulevard of green lights, the land of milk and honey.
Yeah. Been solo in Munich for the last month. There was nothing but green lights, baby.
It felt to me like you almost needed to go down to like Sayulita from Germany to decompress after your month alone. It felt like you almost needed a vacation from that vacation to really be able to return at full force.
No doubt. You know how when you go on vacation with the kids, like you feel like you need a vacation when you get back because you're so busy and like you're so exhausted emotionally, mentally, the whole deal. And now I had that same thing, but it was like, okay, I'm out in Germany by myself. Probably won't have like more than 10 hours to myself, probably until my kids are all out of the house. So I'm like, I got to take advantage of this. So like every day I was trying to do a hike or, go rafting or go to the English Garden or go on a bike ride, like do something that I couldn't do at home And so I was doing that on top of high-level football work here because we got into the playoffs with the team, and I was trying to make sure that everybody was prepared the way they needed to. So I was definitely burning the candle at both ends, especially when you consider there was some German Helles beer being drank in the meantime at night. Hey, I don't know how many times I'm going to have a chance to drink a beer with the boys, my teammates and my coaches. So I was definitely doing it. And so I did have a little R&R time to decompress on the way home. My buddy's got a big trip to Ibiza, a boys trip planned. But unfortunately, we lost too soon, and I wasn't going to be able to sneak that on the way home. Because let me tell you, from what I've heard about Ibiza, it's a great place to relax and catch up on your sleep.
Yeah, I think that's what it's for. Yeah, it's very quiet. A lot of reading books.
Exactly.
Yeah, sleeping.
I look forward.
A couple new books.
I'd love a recap of the conversation when you got home from your month solo in Munich, and you looked at your lovely wife and you said, "Really, just give me some quiet time. I just got to have some quiet time to myself." I really bet that was a great conversation, Hoff.
Yeah, I walked in and she had the frying pan in her hand, and so I knew I better not pull any funny ones because it was coming at my head unless I immediately dove in and started fixing the stuff around the house, started taking care of the kids.
That's exactly right. Hey, this was we'll have more fun because God knows we all need it. But we've talked about this. Look, you're the Hoff, man. Gold jacket, and it's offensive line play is where your eyes go first. We know when you're watching a game. What did you see from us up front yesterday? Let's start there as we kind of break this thing down. What happened on Sunday down at the stadium?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was not good enough starting up front. You couldn't run the ball effectively, and when we had a chance to pass protect, they didn't get the job done there either. And I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of when I was playing and we had Seneca Wallace at quarterback, right? He was a guy that liked to drop deep in the pocket. He was an athletic guy, so he liked to move around. So you didn't quite exactly know where he was. And I think what happens in an offensive lineman's mind sometimes is early in a game, you give up a sack maybe that you feel like was not your fault because you didn't know where the quarterback was going to be. He maybe scrambled where he wasn't supposed to or when he wasn't supposed to. And then now all of a sudden your mind is starting to search for answers like, okay, maybe he's not going to be in the spot he's supposed to on the next play. Maybe I have to try to do more than what I'm just described to do on this play. And then you try to start covering more ground than you normally should. And then now all of a sudden you're getting beat by stuff that you normally wouldn't get beat by. I think that was, it's funny because obviously Brady was on the broadcast, but the reason his offensive lineman loved him so much because he was always exactly right where he was supposed to be. He was never deep in the pocket. He was never getting out of the way to the right or the left of where he should be. And so for them, all they had to do was protect their tiny little area of grass and make sure that the guys on defense ran outside because they would never get there fast enough because he was always getting rid of the ball and he was never too deep and he wouldn't take a sack. But when you play in a game and early on, like I think it may have happened with Joel early in the game where all of a sudden the guy kind of plays a little bit wider than he should. He feels like he's pushing him past, and all of a sudden as he turns his shoulders and his head and he all of a sudden sees the quarterback's deeper than where he thought he would be, and he gives up a hit or a sack, and now he's questioning himself. And then the next time he's trying to cover a little bit more ground, the guy makes a little outside move. He overreacts to it. Guy swims back to the inside, and now he's given up pressure in the middle of the pocket when he never would unless he was questioning where the quarterback was going to be on those plays. And so I think kind of the lack of confidence maybe up front of what the quarterback was doing on any given play because of how things unfolded early kind of allowed their protection to unravel as the game went on. And then, of course, when you're losing, it makes it harder because now everybody on defense is thinking dollar signs, right? They're trying to get sacks. They're trying to get TFLs because that's how they get their name in the paper. That's how they get their big contracts. And so they're pinning their ears back. They don't really care about the run anymore. And so I think a combination of those factors, and then things get kind of sideways, and then I think it looks worse than it really is.
Huff, one thing that I'm curious to just get your take on is it felt like the interior of our line, which is something we have counted on to be a wall, and you talk about a quarterback who is where they're supposed to be. They're able to step up into that pocket, right? There were so many plays yesterday where, let's say we snap the ball at the 40. the line of scrimmage when we were on a pass play was moved back to like the 33. We're talking about centers and guards 7 yards back. There were a lot of successful bull rushes. That's just not something I'm used to seeing with the Cleveland Browns. Do you have any explanation for it? What did you see? Because it just felt unlike what we're accustomed to seeing from a Cleveland Browns offensive line, especially on the interior.
Well, like I said, when you feel like now my quarterback's deeper than he usually is, you're thinking, okay, especially at, let's say, guard and center.
Okay.
I have to now cover side to side more, and I'm willing to give up more ground on the bull rush because if he's deeper, obviously I get bull rushed. Now, it's not a big deal, right? If Brady's quarterback and he's getting the ball at 5 yards, taking one step and standing there, I'm not giving up 1 yard to the bull rush, but I can let him run sideways because it's not going to matter. One, if they try to run around, the ball's going to be gone by the time they get there. And two, it gives my quarterback a place to step up and do. But like I said, when the quarterback's deep and then all of a sudden he's maybe trying to escape to the outsides, you're much happier in the middle just getting bull rushed because that actually gives the quarterback more space to be able to run sideways than it would if you were trying to be firm and letting them run around to the outside. So I think just being on the same page is important, but I think the lack of confidence that Deshaun had early on in the game, throwing the football on time, understanding where his opportunities were to take off and run when they were there, I think that bled into some lack of confidence from the offensive line. And then obviously those are two really bad dominoes to fall because if your O-line doesn't have confidence and your quarterback doesn't have confidence, now the receivers don't have confidence, the running backs don't have confidence, and it's what happens when you get beat the way they did in the week one.
Hoff, how do you get I guess let's start here. If you're Kevin, as you're watching this game last night, what did you expect to see us do offensively, and how did what you saw Sunday differ from what you thought it would look like in your mind's eye?
Well, Kevin Stefanski's made his name as an offensive genius in this league in Minnesota, and then in his time here in Cleveland with run the ball, outside zone, play action pass sets up the big play, right? And I know we've talked a lot about, what were the things that Deshaun had success in when he was in Houston. It was more shotgun, RPO, deep throws, and then kind of run around, make a play because he's such a great athlete. He's got a great arm. And so it was like, how do we mesh those two things? And I think bringing in Ken Dorsey was a good decision because Ken ran an offense with Josh Allen that was a little bit more similar to potentially what Deshaun had when he was successful in Houston. And so maybe you're thinking that might be kind of a little bit of a blend of the two. But it seemed like it was kind of all like Dorsey, really. And I didn't see any of those under center concepts, those play action concepts that, Stefanski has done so well. And really, that's what all the best offenses in the NFL are doing right now. It started with Shanahan, and all of Shanahan's buddies got jobs. So, of course, that's what everybody's running. And it's really hard for a defense because it puts them in conflict because it looks like a run for the first 2 seconds of the play. And so the safeties have to respect it. The linebackers have to respect it. And then you have big openings. And then it's easier for the quarterback, too, because typically it's not a full field read. He's reading half the field or he's just reading one safety. And so it's, all right, touchdown or check down, or I can take off. And I was surprised to not see much of that. I think maybe not having Nick Chubb, obviously, not having the run game that we thought when Deshaun got here. But they ran the ball pretty well even after Nick Chubb got hurt last season. So I don't think that's really a reason why they didn't run the ball. I think it was just maybe a question of, how much of this is going to be Dorsey's offense, how much is Stefanski's offense. And obviously after the results last week, I think Stefanski might lean and say a little bit more like, hey, we're going to be doing some more of my concepts here. And Deshaun, you're just going to have to learn this stuff because clearly after week one, it was not something that we want to see more of. We want to see less of that. We want to see more of the offense that we had last year when Joe Flacco was running it, and it would seem like it was the classic Shanahan offense, which is what Stefanski kind of made his name and put the pelts on the wall with.
Well, the thing that's odd about it is one of the things Dorsey was brought into, and one of the things that was really emphasized was that we were going to utilize a lot more what was called meaningful pre-snap motion. And through Sunday's game, so with only one game left today, the Browns ranked last in the use of pre-snap motion and motion at the snap, and that was something that we thought was going to be a big change here. So what do you make of that? And the kind of, I also think part of the run game was if you don't get first downs, you can't run. I mean, if you're in 3rd and 10 all the time, you can't really run the football, which was very unfortunate as the Browns were behind the sticks consistently in this game. But what do you make of kind of the lack of pre-snap movement and motion? And because we saw even Dallas did that, and they did it very well with the jet sweeps, and then because the jet sweeps were so effective, again, they were able to hit some things off of that where they faked the jet sweep.
Yeah, pre-snap motion usually gives you a big advantage as an offense because you can run the same play but make it look different until the ball is snapped to the defense, right? So it makes it hard on them, easy on us, right? That's what you're always looking to do. Put them in conflict, make it hard on them, easy on us. So the fact that we didn't have a lot of that makes me wonder why. And sometimes you say, okay, maybe it's because the offensive line is potentially having a hard time IDing the defense when they're moving. Because if you have a lot of pre-snap motion, the defense is going to move, and then you have to recommunicate and reclassify who the mic is and all the blocking combinations. And the same thing for the quarterback. Maybe their picture is changing, so they don't feel as comfortable deciding, okay, who's the guy that I have to read on this play when they're in this coverage to decide where the ball goes. Do I read this side of the field first, or do I read that side of the field? Do I read the safety? Is it top down? Is it, check down, touchdown? Like, those things change when the defense changes. So potentially, I think maybe they were going into this thinking, all right, we've been doing this since Dorsey got here in the spring, but it's still their first game together. So maybe let's keep it a little bit more basic right now and feel that we're comfortable with a little less movement and just allow this offense, which has a lot of talent, and with the addition of Jerry Jeudy, we've got 2 great playmakers on the outside. We got a Pro Bowl tight end in the middle. We should be able to run the ball with Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong. Like, those are guys that are good running backs in this league. We feel like we have a good offensive line. We got a quarterback that can run the football too. I think they may have felt they didn't need as much of that window dressing, those pre-snap shifts and motions to be able to get guys open to get them to make plays. But clearly, I think they need to reevaluate that decision because offense was putrid. And even with fewer pre-snap shifts and motions, which you would think would lead to less penalties, they had more penalties.
I know.
So if you were thinking, we don't want to have any penalties because, as Tom Brady eloquently said, if you're going backwards, it's hard to go forwards. You don't want any of those penalties in the game. They still had them, even though they kind of kept it more simple than we expected going into this game.
Joe, how do you make sure that this? I mean, look, there's a lot of bad ones. I mean, Cincinnati was dreadful in their opener against New England. Atlanta was dreadful. Those are teams that we think will be playoff teams, or certainly believe that they were before. How do you, in a league where you play 17 games, how do you flush it? And I joked off the start of the show, welcome to week 1, right? At Jacksonville in week 1, like, let's just totally flush it. How do you do that as a professional? How do you learn and flush? Because these start coming at you quick, man. When you think about how quickly we're going to blink and we're going to be down in Jacksonville playing what will feel like kind of a must-win game.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of the NFL, and I think leaning on the veterans on the team is really important because we as fans, we always overreact, right? Especially in the media, like that's what we get paid to do, like whip ourselves up into a frenzy because every game's so important. It's so meaningful for us. And then we go back to our regularly scheduled jobs, and all we can think about is the Browns and the next game and worry about what happened the last week. But the beauty of doing this as a professional is you have so much going on. You are so busy. You don't really have a chance to dwell on it because you're immediately flipping the page. Like, as soon as you come in today and you watch the film, like, it hurts. Like, I walked into that building a lot of times where I felt sick to my stomach, like literally sick. Like I was taking Tums going into those meetings because it hurt. Like, it's not fun. But as soon as you walk out of there, all of a sudden your mind flips the calendar to the next week and you're immediately watching film on the next guy and you're diving right into that preparation. And so you really kind of forget pretty quickly about what happened the week before because you don't have time to worry about it. And so I think that's the best thing about the game. The worst thing that could have happened, obviously they don't have week 2 bye weeks, but if you had a bye week after a game like this to start the season, because then you got to dwell on it for 2 weeks. But thankfully you're turning the page quick, and they get an opportunity to just focus on Jacksonville as fast as they possibly can. Of course, coaches, right? They're breaking it down, trying to figure out, all right, what did we do wrong? Why were our guys seemingly unprepared? What did we do with the game plan that our guys didn't comprehend, that we didn't see, right? And why? It's easy to see in your after-action report, like, what did we not do well? Okay, penalties, couldn't run the ball, didn't throw the ball down the field in the first half. I think our longest completion was like 6 yards. And you could see what the issues were, but why? Like, why did we think we were going to be good at those things and we weren't? So that is going to be the critical thing going into week 2 against Jacksonville.
It's going to be important. And the good news, look, like we said, it's one game. It obviously, because it's the first, it's kind of it's such an overreaction to it, and you have to make sure that you bounce back from this. And you mentioned kind of in the locker room, the coaches, everybody kind of talking about it and taking a look in the mirror. One thing I did want to ask you about was, we mentioned Deshaun, and he took an absolute beating in this game. And some of it certainly may have been self-inflicted, holding the ball too long, but at other times he just got absolutely annihilated very, very quickly. What does that do for like a line or a team when you see your quarterback take that kind of a beating and take it? He could have taken himself out of that game easily, right? The game was well over, and he did not. Does that help galvanize anything?
I think it can. I mean, I think you realize that you got a quarterback that's willing to be out there and fight with you. It's a slaughter. It's not fun, right? Nothing positive will come from it other than the emotional win of, hey, being out there together, going through hard times, going through hardship, which brings you together. And I think that's a way to kind of build some trust and making some plays. Obviously, the second half was better than the first half. I mean, at least you scored a couple touchdowns, 14 points in the second half. So at least you had something to build on, and to see your quarterback out there as he's taking hits, be there with you, because O-line's not getting subbed out, right? They're there. And so I think it's important to be side by side dealing with the hardship and the tough times that you caused yourself. But I think it does at least give you a little bit of something to build on for the next week. And I think for Deshaun personally, just having an opportunity to make some nice plays, throw a touchdown pass, have a chance to get hit, right? Because I think he hasn't played many games, and everybody has kind of focused on how poorly he's played, but he's coming off a pretty significant shoulder surgery for a quarterback, and I'm glad it hasn't been talked about a whole lot, but that has to be in the back of his mind. Like, how's he going to feel after I get hit? How's he going to feel, when I play a full game and I throw the ball 45 times like he did? And so I think maybe answering some of those questions can help build a little bit of confidence, because it was pretty clear in that game that he didn't have a whole lot of confidence in what he was doing in the shoulder and then how he fit in that offense. So, hopefully, as a fan, as an optimist, you hope.
You're supposed to make us feel better, Hoff.
Just getting through there. Just getting through that game, maybe he's feeling a little bit better about the health of the shoulder.
One other thing I would ask, because you talked about this on Twitter, was there's the video of Joel Bitonio, Deshaun Watson extending a hand to pick him up off the ground, and Bitonio kind of not accepting it and rolling over and getting himself up, using basically every bit of his leverage with his knee and his arm and his elbows to get up. You kind of talked on that as something that offensive linemen must do. Can you, for those who may have not seen your tweet, can you kind of let people know what you're talking about?
Yeah, so Joel's laying on his back, and is this year 11 or 12 for Joel?
This is year number 11 for Joel Bitonio, 2014
right.
draft.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
There we go. I knew the Encyclopedia Z would have that dialed in. But, when you're a youthful lad, you can bend your ankles, knees, and hips enough to, like, sort of get your center of gravity over your heels. And if a little guy wants to pick you up, you can be courteous to him and let him think he's strong enough to lift up a 320-pound man. And you're just kind of doing all the work yourself. But as you get a little bit older, you get a little bit stiffer, and getting up from your back when you've got a smaller person trying to help you up is impossible. And it's actually way, way more work for you, and it's potentially harmful for the small man that's trying to help you up. So actually there's some film that I saw at some point. I have no idea. I think NFL Films may have it of me laying on my back, and even Mitchell Schwartz, I think, was the guy trying to help me up. And I was like, no, I can't get up from my back. I have to roll over, because literally if you're on your back as an O-lineman, you got to roll over and kind of do a little push-up, and then get to your feet, and then stand up on your own. And it's impossible to help you up like that. And so that's all Joel was doing, was basically telling Deshaun, like, hey, if you try to help me up, it's not going to work. And it's very tiring for me to try to like lift myself up. And you might fall on me. I might pull you down, which would be the worst case scenario of all. So that's all that was. But I know everybody, when you have a game the way we did in week 1, Deshaun has not lived up to the contract that we gave him. So everybody's looking for something to make a story of with Deshaun and with the offensive line and everybody out there on the Browns. And so it's easy to look at that and say, oh, look, see, Joel, he doesn't like Deshaun because he wouldn't let him help him up. No, he's just old. He's a fat old lineman. He's got big belly, lot of tape and braces on his body, and he can't get up from his back. He's got to flip over. So that's all it was.
You guys are just big grizzly bears, Hoff. Like, you just got to get over on your bellies, and then you can get up just fine. That's all it is. As you were going through that, just, like, if you've ever seen like a bear, like they can't do it the other way. You got to get on the belly, and then that's how you get up.
Belly.
What did you? Let's do a couple of quick ones on the league at large. A fun one tonight with the Jets and the 49ers. But in terms of what you saw Thursday through Sunday, what are some of the things that jumped out for you?
Well, I think you mentioned briefly the Bengals, who seem to be kind of like the popular pick to make the Super Bowl if the Chiefs aren't going to be there. I mean, what a clunker they had, because everybody kind of thought, oh, man, based on how the Patriots looked in preseason, they're going to be the worst team in the league. And they got and stopped the Bengals, who looked terrible, even though Jamar Chase ended up going out and playing. So to me, that was a huge shocker because I was kind of with them. I was like, oh, man. Bengals are going to be really good this year. Everybody kind of thinks Joe Burrow is one of the great quarterbacks in the league and potentially could make another huge step this week. So that was a big surprise for me. But Pittsburgh being able to be the only team in the AFC North that wins without scoring a touchdown.
Yeah. Unreal.
That's just classic Pittsburgh, why I freaking hate them. Like, how they should not win that game. It's impossible. You can't win a game without scoring a touchdown and then to be the only team in our division. The team that I think if you polled everybody, everyone was probably thinking, Pittsburgh's going to end up last in the AFC North. And now after week 1, they're in first place. So go figure, it's the NFL.
Oh, baby. It is the NFL. It is pretty wild. You excited for Niners-Jets tonight, Huff?
I am, because I've called the Aaron Rodgers fiasco out there with the Jets for a long time, and obviously relate my relationship with Kyle Shanahan, and to see what the 49ers are going to do this year. I think it's a great story for the NFL, and, I'm not like an Aaron Rodgers fan, but I would like to see him have a great season and give Jets fans what they want. My partner out here in our bagel restaurant at Gotham Bagels is like the most diehard Jets fan. And it was hard for me to see how happy he was the whole summer after they got Aaron Rodgers, and then how sad he was after Rodgers got hurt. Like, it hurt my soul, because I like to rib him a little bit. Like any friend, like your brother. Like, you like to give him a hard time until he's really, really sad, and like he's in the depths of hell emotionally, and then you feel really bad for him. So I'm cheering for the Jets, even though they're against my boy Kyle Shanahan, because I'd really like Aaron Rodgers to go out and have a good season for Jets fans, because they're long-suffering like Browns fans.
Yeah, they have been. That's a fun one tonight. Look, this was the NFL playing the hits all weekend long. I mean, it was one banger after. All the primetime games have been good. I mean, speaking of, you continue to be in Green Bay. The Jordan Love injury on Friday in Brazil. We haven't touched on that. It's got to be complete panic up there with that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think the one thing the NFL really needs to look into is the playing surfaces when they go overseas. And I saw this firsthand 3 years ago when I watched the NFL Munich game played at Allianz Arena where FC Bayern plays. And then I saw it because when I was coaching in the ELF, we played in all soccer stadiums. And their turf, it's like regular grass that's short, but they don't put any sand in there. They don't put anything to kind of reinforce the turf to make it a little bit stick together better. Because I think for soccer players, they want that turf to give way if they get cleats caught in there.
Right.
Because they're little guys, but they don't want their cleats to get caught because they're not running into anybody. So they don't really need to be able to help create a lot of that force with extra friction in the ground. If anything, if their turf holds and a cleat gets caught, they're going to blow a knee or an ankle or something. So all of these soccer surfaces are super slippery. And I think the NFL really needs to look into that because it's such a different playing experience than playing on a field that's made for football or even a turf field. I mean, I'll give you one quick example. My right guard, who's a great player for the Munich Ravens, young kid from Bavaria. We call him the Bavarian Butcher because he's like a killer. I would love to see him play for the Browns. Like,
great
he
name.
had a personal foul in almost every game. Like, almost every game, personal foul. But Dominic Andra, like, when he's a big man, like 330, big, strong guy, and we were practicing on a turf field, but it's a turf field that's made for soccer. So they don't have any of those little rubber pellets in there. And he slips because there's no traction without those pellets. And he, tore cartilage in his knee, and he was out for almost the entire preseason trying to get that right. But it's just a different surface. And, watching the guys slip in that Eagles-Packers game, and then obviously the Jordan Love injury wasn't because of the surface specifically. But I think it reduces the product that NFL fans get watching it on a soccer field, but also puts the players at danger with as much slipping as they're doing. So maybe they'll do something about it, but probably not.
Probably not. Hey, we'll get you out of here on this one. Give me the temperature in Madison. The Crimson Tide coming to town on Saturday, my friends.
A lot of excitement, a lot of trepidation, my friends. The first two games for the Fighting Badges, they've been victories, but they beat Western Michigan and South Dakota in not convincing fashion. So to have the Crimson Tide come, there's a lot of people that are pretty nervous, but excited. Like, if you keep it close, get a chance to win at the end maybe, I think people will be really happy. Obviously, if we pull off the upset, it's going to be a great day in Madison, even greater than it usually is. But there is a potential to be a little bit of a bully beatdown. And so guys are a little bit nervous about that one.
From a non-conference perspective, got to be the biggest ones to ever come up there. I mean, Alabama, non-conference, what compares to that?
For sure.
Got to be.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
I can't either. No.
I think that's what's cool about the one thing that's given me some little hope in college football, and Bo, you'd probably know better than I do because you follow it more closely, but it seems like there's more parity now than ever before with the NIL and the transfer portal. And so the fact that you've got some of these mid-majors or even like the FCS teams like South Dakota playing Wisconsin tight, and what Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame this past weekend. Yep. And I think you're seeing a lot more parity because these teams that you're used to in your mind, your equilibrium thinks, oh, they stink because they're in the MAC or they're a smaller division school. It's not the case anymore because guys just want to play. So if you go and you take a scholarship at Alabama and you're not playing, you're going to go leave and go play somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so I think that the talent is much more equally distributed. And then with the spread game, I think it equalizes things. It's not just about who has the biggest, most physical, strongest guys. And so hopefully just because we narrowly beat South Dakota and Western Michigan, it doesn't mean that we're not very good. It just means that there's more parity. So that's the story I'm telling myself when I lay my head on my pillow at night.
Just keep it within 16, Hoff. That's all I ask of you. Keep it within 16. Great.
My man knows the spread.
Got to.
I love it.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you. Good to have you home, and thanks for your time today.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys.
All right, that is the great Hoff. By the way, an unbelievable
that picture's
picture.
Great.
He looks like
Wilderman.
Either that or it looks like he's got some guy who builds like choppers, like motorcycles.
He's either building choppers,
yeah,
he's catching
welding
lobsters or king crabs, or he's whittling things from wood, chopping down trees.
It's quite formidable in this picture we used for him on the YouTube. We'll go over some of the great clips of the game coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Copiers and document services of your Cleveland Browns. They'll tackle any size office. The number there is 216-485-2000. Visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. Time for your great clips. Great clip of the game. Great clips. It's going to be great. Let's have a listen.
Second and goal from the 6. Aikens in motion on the right. Deshaun looks that way. Throws. Jerry Jeudy. Caught it. Touchdown. There it is. A 6-yard score. And Judy's first as a Brown. And finally they break through. They are on the scoreboard and in the end zone. 27-9, point after pending.
There you go, Andrew Siciliano, who is here in studio with us in the first hour on the call with the great Z on that one, and that was good to get that one on the board. And that's the way that goes. I watched, obviously, I watched the television broadcast of this. There has been a great deal of chatter on social about Brady and all of this, and I just think, by and large, there's a lot of miserable people on social. And the reality, I thought he was more than fine. I didn't think that there was any point where I was like, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, or sucks, or the timing's off. Like, I thought he was a very easy listen, a very natural cadence with Burkhardt. Burkhardt was clearly the veteran, and Tom's a guy who's finding his way, and it felt like Burkhardt was trying to, steer him in the right direction. As a guy who's calling his first ever live game, regular season NFL game, but the notion that
what
he
were
was
the
some
big
disaster.
criticisms?
Oh, but a lot of people just thought that he just sucked, and I'm like, I just didn't see it at all. Like we watched the whole thing. I listened to the whole thing. I thought he was more than fine.
I think here's the problem. Number one, you're preparing for a game, but you're not allowed to have any advanced access to anybody. There's no tape to watch of anybody because no one played anybody in the preseason on either side.
Right.
So literally you're going into this game completely blind outside of a dress rehearsal game that you did, again, I think it was the Cowboys, neither the Chargers or Cowboys-Rams.
Yeah.
But no one played.
No.
So he's going in completely blind. I will say this. Him walking onto the field might as well have been Jesus walking onto the field.
Well, that's the way they
it
was insane.
It was insane.
They portrayed it that way on television, too. Like, everything, they made it about him.
Let me tell you
in the
something.
lead-up, they did not talk about us at all. They talked about the Cowboys, they talked about Dak, and they talked about Brady. That's all they talked about in the lead-in on Fox.
Let me tell you something. Our booth is right next to their booth.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a huge security detail, everything, but you were looking down, and Siciliano said it was like you were at the zoo because everybody in front of us at various points, and in many cases, many of them were just turned around with their phones looking at his booth in the stands all game long.
Yeah. I thought he was fine. Look, he's not going to be like, I don't think he's ever going to be like, hey, I got this nugget from coach, or I saw this, I picked up at this in film study. What you want from him is kind of like to see it just through a quarterback's eyes, the way Romo did earlier. Romo got a little, last couple of years he's gone over the top, and you don't need him predicting plays. You just want him to say what happened. This is why this happened from the quarterback's perspective, because most of us watch it from that perspective. We're not watching the rest of it, in part because that's the way it's shot. It's not shot all 22.
No,
it's shot
it is
tight,
not.
which sucks. I wish it was shot all 22.
Totally.
Wish every NFL game had an all 22 option. It's one of the things I miss most about going to games.
Yep.
Because then you can see, he had him. Like, oftentimes I'll text you, and I'm like, what was going on the back end there? Was there anybody there? Those are the things that you're curious about, are those type of things. And so you miss out on those a little bit. I will say this, in the third quarter, start of the fourth, Kevin and Tom made a great mention of Jim Donovan and wished him well. And that was very classy to do that. And they both did that in the broadcast. So I thought that was very classy of them.
Good. As justified, and it was good. They had a pretty emotional tribute at the very beginning of the game at the stadium as well. Certainly he will be missed. I'll say he said he didn't miss much yesterday.
No,
he did not.
No, not yesterday. All right, so much more to come, including a score for tonight. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. There you go. Lots to unpack tomorrow in week 1 of the National Football League. The scores were not particularly kind. Pretty middling. We were okay, middling.
We have a chance to be.
You could have a chance to be a couple games over. I could be 500, but not.
It wasn't.
Not
maybe
the
kids are going to
JUCO
JUCO this year.
It wasn't the.
Could be.
Listen.
Could be. Some brutal beats. I mean, the Miami 3.5 brutal. Houston's up 9, and they give up a touchdown and somehow win by 2, which is just insane. On that one, I missed that one as well. That was really, really close. What was the other one I was really?
The only ones we really
about?
just got wrong were Carolina, Cincinnati, Atlanta. We just were wrong.
Carolina, yeah, those 3 were bad. Really bad. Oh, and then the Rams in overtime. I had them covering. That was brutal. That's tough. That was
didn't
tough.
mind that one.
I came away with that one feeling like I felt with Kansas City, Kansas City and Baltimore. Those are both good teams. Rams are going to be good.
Team.
They're good. They got a ton to work with up front, but
the Lions
still
felt like
team.
were just kind of almost like sleepwalking offensively in that game. Not a whole lot of Amon-Ra, not a lot of Laporta. Jamison had some big plays, and you see what. Oh, that's why we liked him for a couple of years.
Yeah, you can see it.
But they were Goff, I felt like, was under a bit of duress as that game continued.
I thought like what McVay
Stafford was way under duress.
I thought what McVay did and what Stafford was able to do amidst the most absurd circumstances, because those poor kids trying to block Aiden Hutchinson, there's no chance. But they would move. There was a lot of motion. They would chip with a receiver.
They're doing
like
all kinds of things.
Even Stafford in his 16th year in the league, like he's throwing off his back. His arm is still so damn good.
It's incredible.
Those balls were crazy.
The one to Cup on the sideline was just bonkers throw, bonkers catch. I know that this is probably in real world not something that is a thing, but I thought about it when I saw it live at the time.
1 minute.
And then I saw a picture of it online where they said that the defender's blue was such a perfect match to the blue in the end zone that when he threw the pick in the end zone, the guy kind of almost blended in, and he kind of did.
He did. I noticed that as well, and I was shocked that they didn't wear the silver pants with it, like the mono blue, and they did dissolve in the end zones. There's no question.
We need to score, kids. We're up against it.
Go Pedro.
Pedro, I'm with it. Yeah.
Go Pedro.
Pedro.
30.
This will be a fun one.
Yeah, this should be
And I watched
really
more
fun.
football in a weekend than I have since I've been married. The amount of football I watched this weekend. It was a lot.
A lot of football.
But I like this one tonight. I'm excited to see this game played. All right, there you go. The next level's coming up next. We're back tomorrow. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You've been listening.